Hello, Guy.
Hi, Annemieke.
Thank you for making the time to do this interview.
I studied Chinese with management at university and then started work with Stolt-Nielsen in '96 on the shipping side of the business as a shipbroker. A couple of years there, then moved to Shanghai, was responsible for the 3 businesses that Stolt has in the transport group, and then left Stolt to join Biomaterial Science, which is now Covestro. And after that, I worked for Sasol in various management roles, commercial, operations, and general management.
And then you came back.
And then I came back to Stolthaven about 7 years ago, first in the region in Asia Pacific, where I have worked for more than 2 decades. And then moved to the Netherlands 6 years ago with this global responsibility for Stolthaven terminals.
Can you tell us a little bit more about people who've made an impression and who are helping you throughout your career?
Yeah, so different people have kind of touched me at different points in my career. So of course, both my parents in different aspects have. My father worked for BP Chemicals in a global role, so he was quite insightful, and he has a high moral compass, very opinionated, which was very good at that stage in my life, kind of helping with direction. The 2 leaders who left the most impression on me, one was a former boss called Marjo Low, unfortunately passed away from COVID last year, but he was a true leader in that he was trying to develop me all along my career. So helped me grow a network, was confident, even though he was my boss, giving me a lot of insights into what I was doing right and what I was doing wrong. And then at Sasol, I had a boss called Tom O'Brien, and he focused equally on performance, but also on the softer factors. So EQ, how to treat people. He's a very good leader in that regard of getting the most out of the people. So different stages in my career, different people have helped me.
Can you share with us a leadership lesson that you've learned not through MBA or any other study, but really through life and experience?
Yeah, the thing that really surprises me at the moment, and it is changing, is previously the lack of focus on things like emotional intelligence. When you're in management and leadership, it's really to do with the people, getting performance out of the people, developing people, and having that empathy towards people. If you look at what happened during COVID, the impact on employees, burnout, stress, all of these emotional levers, if you weren't a leader with emotional intelligence, it was very difficult to lead people at that time. They were looking for that confidence in leadership to help people who were struggling with a circumstance that was beyond everyone's expectations.
What do you think are the biggest challenges leaders face today?
But the reality is there seems to be 1 in 100 year events happening every year now. We had COVID, we have weather-related impacts, various social movements, Black Lives Matter, etc. Geopolitical. If you look at the current situation with Ukraine and Russia, the challenge, it's being prepared for something that you don't know might even arise. When it does arise, then having the confidence and the ability to basically get through that challenge and be seen to be a leader in that period of time. I'm white, middle-aged, came from a relatively privileged background. So how can I know how other people are feeling? That's the challenge that I have, and it's very difficult sitting somewhere in a room saying, I know how you feel, when you don't really know how you feel. Now, I have been lucky that I spent 20 years outside of my home country, various countries in Asia, getting that cultural awareness. It is a cliche, but it starts at the top. So how would I expect other people to feel? How do I get rid of my unconscious bias, etc.? So last year in Stolthaven, we did asked that all senior management did unconscious bias training. And I'm guilty of this. I've hired people who are similar to me, you know, have similar hobbies, similar backgrounds. But it's been proven that a diverse organization drives performance. So here on the headquarters of Stolthaven, we have 25 people in the office and more than 10 nationalities. Yeah. So that brings diversity, and you can see that in the way that we interact. I talked to several customers who have taken a leading position on DE&I, and very insightful that it can't be the minority that tries to make the change. It has to be the majority. And therefore, again, me as the leader of the organization, it does start with me, the messaging and the signals that I send, then trickling down into the organization, because it's important that it is the majority trying to help those that might be viewed as the minority.
The world is changing, and leaders now must think about how to get the best talent in, but even more, how to retain that talent within the organization. What are your thoughts on that? How do you think leaders should go about that?
Another aspect of retention is really getting to understand people and specifically their needs. There'll always be a balance between what a company needs and what an employee needs. But if you look at maternity leave or paternity leave, or people having more flexibility to work from home, there has to be a lot more trust from the organization that the people working from you will be delivering the results regardless of where they are, how they're working, and things like that. And then you have to question yourself, if you don't trust an employee to be working from home, do you even trust the employee to be making decisions for your company? It's a challenge because there's a perception, and it's often the wrong perception, that the industry is somehow dirty, polluting. Ironically, the chemical industry is probably the solution to the problem. How the industry as a whole can spin the story in more of a positive way and move away from the negative. There's still challenges on the negative, but if you take the collective know-how, knowledge of the industry combined with talent and youth and fresh innovative thinking and the ability to challenge the norm, the two together will solve the problem. We've encouraged more mature people to join our organization for the fact that they do bring knowledge, experience, and then can mentor younger people. There's a natural conflict. Some of the things that we're looking at in Stolthaven will cost money. The question is the customer willing to pay more for that solution? And by default, is the end consumer also willing to pay more for sustainability? If you look at the EU Green Deal, the potential impact, it will hit the consumer. So there has to be that realization that for a point in time, sustainability will cost more money. It's better in the long term. And I think with economies of scale and various technologies, the cost will eventually disappear. Or you look at it completely differently and say, yes, it's a greater cost to the industry. How do we work together to reduce that cost and create greater value? So you really have to look at this problem from a different perspective, and then also address it as a collective, as a joint approach. So the industry, service providers, customers, and even consumers trying to find the perfect solution. The challenge is we have shareholders who look for financial returns, we have employees, we have partners, we have customers. Some of them have similar goals, some of them have conflicting goals. So the challenge is really to see how you can address all of the different stakeholders and their various goals. But if you look at very progressive companies, they've proven that additional money, additional cost on sustainability in the long run actually saves the company money. It positions them as a stronger company in the future, and that's where Stolthaven is coming from.